are incredibly supportive of each other. And I think this goes back to your point of theater, but also think it has to do with New York. So many
Yeah.
of the actors that I came up with, Sam Rockwell, Josh Hamilton, Ethan Hawke, and then Joel Delafuente, John Conley, Carl Kensel, all these guys from school, we all are still in touch and supportive of each other. We actually went through that version, each of us at different times with one another, where, we would just talk about how shitty it was that some people had, these opportunities, and how thrilled they were that others of us were having other opportunities. And they really would, it is different in Los Angeles.
Right. Well, I think it also sounds like that's a handful of guys, and it seems like the bitter, nasty ones probably you just weren't friends with because, there's got to be a few.
We could only put up with them for so long, and we called the herd over the years, possibly.
Well, it's just like it just filtered out that way,
Well, it is a pretty broad grouping, though, when I think of it now. Like, how many? There's got to be a good 20 people that I'm still in touch with and really supportive of.
Oh, that's great. No, yeah. I mean, maybe I'm just thinking of comics, or maybe I'm just thinking about me. I think
you could be thinking of comics, because but no, of course you're thinking about actors, and every time somebody gets a part that I really wanted, turning down the volume on the envy, is really difficult. And
what was the one time that you can remember where that was really like? Was it something?
What do you mean, like today? I mean, this shit happens all the time, Mark. To your point before about the never-ending series of potential crevasses you're going to fall into. It starts with, can you get the audition? Next, okay, if you get the audition, are you going to nail it in the audition? Are you then going to nail the callback? Are you going to do okay in the meeting with the director? All of those are replete with things that you can fuck up.
You're fucking.
Oh no, I still audition.
Okay, but I mean, you do walk in. They're not like, who's this guy?
Some of them are like, you're still acting. That's great. And I'm like, what? You don't care for the theater? Go fuck yourself. But then after you get the part, then there's the question of executing the part, right? Because I've been fired from a job too. Once you execute the part, then it's a question of whether or not you're in the film. Then if you're in the film, it's a question of whether or not the critics like it. Then if the critics like it, it's a question of whether anybody goes and sees it. I mean, every one of those things can play with your sense of self-consciousness.
Yeah, right. But a lot of them are out of your control, I imagine.
They are, but getting to that point where you recognize that is really hard, because you want to have, unless you're somebody who can write, I can't. I'm a completely interpretive artist. I need somebody to give me material. They need to tell me what the story is going to be. They need to give me some perspective on how I can help them tell the story before I'll have any kind of creative agency or insight. For people like me who are waiting for people that they respect to come to them, it can sometimes be a long, frustrating wait. So saying that it's out of your control is one thing, but being able to internalize it in a way that you're not immobilized.
It's immobilized, heartbroken. Yeah,
that's it. That's where the community of Confederates comes in handy. Is, we all lean on each other at different times.
Well, yeah, and after a certain point, that group of actors, you've all been cut out of things. You've all, done great things that were never seen. You've all made mistakes and things that you took and are out there. So with age comes a certain amount of humility that must aid in the ability to go like, fuck it. That didn't work out.
No question about it. In fact, I think that as we get older and discover that we know and have known less and less, the sense of humor seems to be rising to the top.
Oh, it has to, or you just fucking implode.
Yeah, you're dead in the water.
Let's get back to that. The process of because I don't talk to. Well, you try to talk to actors about. How they do it, how they, what their craft is. Or I used to do it a lot when I was starting to act more so I could get free acting lessons. But, what it comes down to is what is the, the most effective way that these individuals, on top of their natural talent to do it, are able to pretend to be somebody else. So, how do you engage that? But it seems like you're kind of practical about it.
Well, there's two different things you were talking about there I was thinking about before, too. I'm for the collective enterprise to create a cathartic event for people, right? That's what ultimately you're doing. You're having somebody pay $13, the same way when you're doing a comedy show. I'm going to charge you $20 and I hope this 10 minutes gives you a giggle. Or I'm going to charge you 40 and I hope you laugh your ass off. Like that's, it's the same thing for.
And I'm going to charge you 75 and thank you for subscribing this season. We hope you enjoy the play. You need the hearing aids.
There's that version too. We've kept the theater alive for you, so enjoy your nap. I've been in plenty of those productions, and by the way, giving people good nap. And I feel proud of that because sometimes
nice long nap.
Yeah, sometimes we need nap. But
all right, so the cathartic enterprise. That's one.
That's a comprehensible journey to me. I like being in a group of people doing it. There's the other version of it, which is some people are really, really good, and the event is watching the peacock. The event is watching somebody display these skills in a radical way that takes you out of yourself. That happens in athletics. I'm sure there are people in comedy as well who just have an explosive kind of gift.
So you're saying that sometimes but that doesn't preclude the ensemble element. That the ensemble is in support of the peacock, and you got to live with that fucking weirdness.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all the time. I mean, and people sometimes who have been a part of the ensemble before become the peacock for a moment. You got to navigate that moment. And I mean, all of us have been through it. But for the audience, I was thinking, sometimes I'll pay to go see a Meryl Streep movie, whatever she's doing. I don't know what the movie is, but
of course
that's somebody who can fucking work. So you want to see the work. And but usually it's about the story, whether or not the story works, whether or not that's what I want to do to curate my evening. And that is the workman part of it that I was taught in school, which is you take your time going over the text, collaborating with the director, the other actor. You become very fastidious about how you understand your role in creating this event. And then you try to do that. You try to technically implement that in a way that makes it seem like it's happening.
Right. When you watch Meryl Streep, though, can you see the work? I can't see the work.
No. It's upsetting, as somebody who has spent a lot of time and money trying to figure it out. It is it's disappointing and humiliating, but it's thrilling to see somebody, in the same way you see Jordan or anybody who has a rare kind of gift.
Yeah.
I don't know how he makes his body move like that, in processing information.
Some people it's natural talent.
And she's both too, because she went to school as well and is highly trained in theater and she can sing. It just doesn't end with her, but she can also collaborate, with people in the way that I'm familiar with. But she does it on a different level.
Have you worked with her?
No.
Why not?
Nobody's asked. Once again,
have you been in movies together where you just didn't have scenes together, or no?
I don't think so. No. No. I'm not going to take that personally. I just showed my son Defending Your Life. You remember that Albert Brooks movie?
Sure. I'm
a sucker for Albert Brooks, and certainly was, like in my family, he was somebody that we all kind of enjoyed collectively. So I was thrilled how much he enjoyed Albert Brooks as well. But watching Meryl Streep's capability in even a comedy that is kind of a heightened fun comedy it's very hard to do. It's very hard.
Yeah, but it was amazing. My recollection of seeing her in that movie was like, she must be doing him a favor. They must be friends. Why the fuck is she in this movie?
I bet that she loved doing it. I mean, for the first time, she didn't have to be tormented by like the death of a child.
Right.
Or,
how old's your kid?
He's 16.
16. Wow, that's kind of my buddy's got a 15-year-old. Can be rough.
Yeah. I don't know how it was for you. But
when I was 15, I grew up in New Mexico, so we could drive by then. But yeah.
When did you start driving?
14 and 9 months, you got your learner's permit.
Right. I started driving early too. I mean, I didn't get my learner's permit until 15, but yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
Well, this was in Dallas.
Right. New Mexico. I guess it's the same. They're like, it's plenty of room.
Yeah.
Let the kids drive.
There was something called a
gonna
hardship. There was a hardship license, and I think it was mostly for families in rural communities who, if somebody was working, they needed to drive the kids to school or something. And my parents were divorced at that point, and my mom was working, and so my brother turned 15 and got his hardship license and was driving us around. And so, I was a year and a half younger than him, and one day he decided to teach me, and it was a stick shift Volvo station wagon.
Nice.
And I just remember viscerally learning how to deal with a clutch on a suburban Dallas street.
That was the only thing. Like when I was a kid, it was like that. You wanted, like, any idiot could drive an automatic. So like when I got the opportunity to learn, I learned on a standard, and I'm very happy. I haven't driven one in fucking years.
I know, they're great to drive though. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a pickup truck that my dad had one summer.
With the 3 on the tree?
Yes. Now that's a fucker to drive. I mean, you feel like you've done something if you've made it through a day on that one.
Right. They're scary and they kind of lurch around.
Yeah. And a really loose clutch, like you don't know when the gear is kicking in, really. It could be like 3 feet of give.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what, your dad was a pickup truck guy?
No, no. He was a businessman. He was he tried to do a lot of different things, and but most consistently he was a bookie and loan shark, and I think this pickup was probably payment at a certain point that then my brother and I were given used to drive. He obviously wasn't a high level bookie based on the pickup truck. He always tried to find his way back into a normal way of doing business by buying products that were in the marketplace that had failed in the marketplace. He'd buy the copyright and then he would try to remarket them. Like there was these umbrella hats. I don't know if you remember in the late 70s, early 80s.
I can picture them.
Yeah. And so there was, they came out with the rainbows on them or whatever, and they didn't really work because why would anybody do that? But my dad thought, I know what I'll do. I know Lou Brock, who was a baseball player for St. Louis, I believe. And he was like, I'm going to get Lou Brock to endorse these, and we're going to sell the Brock umbrella. And sure enough, we had, I don't know, 2,000 of these things in the basement. So he was always he was an entrepreneur, and he wanted his pet rock. That's what he thought.
No, of course. Right. If I can just get the pet.
My mom is the one who is working, keeping everything together, working in an advertising agency and taking care of 3 kids in their teens, 3 boys. So she's the hero in the story of that.
So when he was a bookie, was he his own man or was he working for someone else?
Yeah, I suspect there was just someone else involved there, Mark, to your question. And
because it doesn't sound like your dad's got the muscle.
Yeah, well, he did work with a man named Mr. O, who was a 6'4" former boxer.
Oh, okay, so that was his guy. He had
who
Mr.
had a pit bull named Bullet. Yes, and I mean he carried a firearm, and all of it was very charming. Like he was a really charming guy. He made it seem perfectly normal. When there was a riot shotgun next to his bed one day, he was like, "Oh no, that's fine. Just don't touch it." You kind of think, "Is it fine? Okay." Man,
it makes me nervous. Makes me nervous.
I don't know why, but that thing, it's loaded. You have stuff for it too. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Did you ever go out shooting?
Not with him. No, I don't think I ever did. I was in the Boy Scouts, and I went to a camp, a YMCA camp, one summer or 2 summers, where you do riflery and stuff. But that's about
22s.
The extent of my shooting. Exactly, 22 rifles. I guess you did a lot in New Mexico.
Well, I went to a camp as well where we learned how to load shotgun shells and shoot skeet, and we did some 22 stuff, and then. My dad had some guns around. My friend, there was a lot of guns around, and I ended up shooting guns here and there. I never owned one. Recently, I've been thinking maybe I should get one, but then there's always the possibility that you might have a bad day.
Yeah,
So
doesn't seem like a good idea to me either.
I'm gonna decide it on a bat. I'm gonna get a bat.
I don't feel confident enough in my ability to protect